Hello friends, welcome back to the Python programming session. In the earlier sessions, we had looked into the various type of operators present in Python. We had also looked into the precedence and associativity of the operators. And we have completed everything which was supposed to be covered in the operator section. So now let's move into the new topic, that is the control structures available in Python. So what is control structure? Control structure is basically the control flow or the order in which the program code executes. It basically tells us how the code has to get executed. If we give sequential statements, it executes the statements one by one. The first statement first, then the second statement, then the third statement. So it follows the sequential flow of programming. And in the program, if we give any selection or decision control statements, based on the decision, the flow of control or flow follows in that particular statements. If it is true, a set of statements will get executed. If false, another set of statements get executed. And in selection or decision, we have the if else statements. Then we have the third type of statements, which is the repetitive or iterative statements. In this particular statements, a set of statements get repeatedly executed till the condition is satisfied. Once the condition becomes false, then it comes out of the loop. So examples for iterative statements are for loop and while loop. So friends, it is of three types. Control structures covers three types of statements, that is the sequential flow, the selection or decision control statements, and the repetitive or iterative control statements. Now let's move on to the first statement, that is the sequential control flow. Here it flows sequentially, that is one after the other. There is no condition or looping occurring in these statements. The first statement gets executed. After that it passes on to the second statement and then the third statement. It follows the sequential flow of data programming. So this was the sequential control flow. Now let's go into the selection or decision control flow. In this type of statement, a test expression or condition is checked, and based on the result, a set of statements get executed. If it is true, the true statements get executed. If false, the false statements get executed. It is basically of four types: the if statement, if else statement, nested if. Nested if means an if statement within another if statement. So any number of if statements can be included within a if statement. So this is the nested if condition. And then we have the if, elif, else. Elif is nothing but similar to else if, what we saw in what was there in C programming language. In Python, we specify it as elif, if, else if, else. So this is another type of decision control statements. Now let's look into in detail on all these four types of statements. In the if statement, we check for particular condition. If the condition is true, a set of statements get executed. If false, nothing gets executed, and the sequential flow of data, flow of program continues. So basically here, if the condition is satisfied, a set of statements get executed, else nothing gets executed, and in both the cases, the sequential flow of data gets continued. Now the second one is the if else statement. Here we are checking for a particular condition or a test expression. If it results in a true, the true block of statements get executed. If it results in false, the false block of statements get executed. And later, after executing the true or the false block of statements, the sequential flow of data continues. It continues with the sequential flow of the program. Now let's move on to the third type of statement, that is the nested if statement. Here we are having one if inside another if. So here we having a test expression which gets checked, the if statement which gets checked for the test expression. If the result is true, it enters into another test expression, another if statement. So basically, if the condition is true, it enters another if statement. So this is the nested if, that is one if within another if. If it is true, the true block of the second if statement gets executed. If it is false, the false block of the second if statement executes. And if it is true, it enters into another if. If it is false, the false block of first if statements get executed. And later on, the control flows with the sequential flow of programming. So this is how the nested if condition works. It basically is one if within another if. If the test expression of the first if satisfies, it enters into the second if and checks for the second if condition, and a set of statements get executed based on the result whether it is true or false. So now let's move on to the fourth type, that is if, elif, else statement. Here it checks for a if condition. If the if condition turns out to be false, if it is false, then it will check for else if condition, else if, that is elif. It checks for the elif condition. If the elif condition turns out to be true, the elif statements get executed. If the elif condition turns out to be false, the else statements gets executed. So basically it is if, elif, else. So these three conditions are checked in this particular statement, that is if, elif, and then else. If the first test expression of the if condition turns out to be true, the true block of statements get executed. After any of these statements get executed, the control flows with a sequential flow of programming. So this is how the if, elif, and else statement works in Python. It basically checks for the first if condition. If it is false, it will check else if condition. If true, it will perform the elif statement. If false, it will perform the else statement. So this is how the if, elif, and else statement work in Python. Now let's move on to the third type of statements, that is the repetitive or iterative statements. In this particular statement, a set of statements are executed repeatedly till the test condition is satisfied. Once it becomes false, the control comes out of the loop. Examples are the while loop and the for loop. So basically here a set of statements get executed repeatedly till it checks for the condition. If it is satisfied, it continuously checks for the condition and executes the loop. And once the condition fails, it comes out of the loop. In the body of the loop, there is something called updation of the loop variables. So the loop variables get updated. Once the loop variable reaches a state where the test expression turns out to be false, it comes out of the loop. There are two types of repetitive statements. They are the while loop and the for loop. The while loop or for loop. Here we have a while condition or a for condition. So the test expression for a while loop or a for loop gets checked over here. If it is true, the body of while or for loop gets executed. And again it checks for the condition. If true, again it executes these statements. Again it checks for the condition. If true, it executes the while or for loop statements. So this happens till the condition is true. It rotates in a loop. And once the condition fails, it exits out of the loop. So this is how the while loop or the for loop works in Python. Hope so friends, this is clear for you. So basically there are three types of statements, that is sequential, selective or decision, and repetitive statements. Hope so this is clear for you. If you have any doubts, please do reach to me out in the comment section. If you like my video, click on the like button and please do subscribe to get notifications of my new video. Till then, see you. Bye bye.